Good day, dear students, once again. Today we are looking at a simple but beautiful poem by James Kirkup. The name of the poem is No Men Are Foreign. Don't get disheartened because it's a poetry lesson. I know many of us are not very ardent lovers of poetry. But learning poetry can be made an enjoyable experience. And this simple, beautiful poem conveys a very beautiful, important message. So, let's be ready to look at the poem No Men Are Foreign by James Kirkup. Research says that when we are happily engaged in a learning process or in anything that you do, your learning becomes much stronger. As your learning gets better, your retention also grows stronger, which means if you learn something with an engaged mind, we are going to remember that for a longer time. Let's start with the basics. How do we study poems? Let's look at what a teacher says about the ways to study a poem. All poetry requires patience. Be patient with the text, read carefully for nuance and inference, know what the words mean, look up words that are unfamiliar, look up words that are familiar, but you cannot specify. Pay attention to words or phrases that resonate with other things you know and try to identify the connection. Be patient and read slowly, and you will be amply rewarded. The reward of reading a poetry is the aesthetic enjoyment, your understanding of the text, your deeper understanding of life, your ability to talk about it, your ability to ask questions about it, or your ability to answer questions about it. So let's try to explore this poem patiently. No Men Are Foreign by James Kirkup. Remember, no men are strange, no country is foreign. Beneath all uniforms, a single body breathes like ours. The land our brothers walk upon is earth like this, in which we all shall lie. They too, aware of sun and air and water, are fed by peaceful harvests, by war's long winter starved. Their hands are ours, and in their lines we read a labor not different from our own. Remember, they have eyes like ours that wake or sleep, and strength that can be won by love. In every land is common life that all can recognize and understand. Let us remember, whenever we are told to hate our brothers, it is ourselves that we shall dispossess, betray, condemn. Remember, we who take arms against each other, it is the human earth that we defile. Our hells of fire and dust outrage the innocence of air that is everywhere our own. Remember, no men are foreign and no country is strange. If you look at the lines in the text, the very first line is a reminder because he starts with the word remember. The second line is continuous with the third line, and the third line is continuous with the fourth line. In English poetry, when a line has to be read continuously with the next line, you call it enjambment. When you read such lines, you can call that they are enjamed lines. So the first stanza has got a reminder, you have to remember something, and there are enjamed lines which we should start with as a basic understanding of the structure of this poem. What is it that the poet wants us to remember? Why is he reminding us? An enjamed line typically lacks punctuation at its line break, so the reader is carried smoothly and swiftly without interruption to the next line of the poem. The uniform that the poet talks about in the second line might not be the uniforms that we wear. It might be referring to the uniforms used by soldiers in the battlefields when they kill each other. This uniform is of high importance here. In a battlefield, killing happens merely on the basis of uniform. They don't know whom they kill. They don't know why they kill. It's purely based on this uniform that one party kills the other. So it's a simple poem, but it has lots of deeper, important meanings. Let's look at the last line of the first stanza. The land our brothers walk upon is earth like this, in which we all shall lie. The land our brothers walk upon is earth like this, in which we all shall lie. What does the word lie mean? In this particular context, it refers to the final sleep of every human being, which is nothing but death. So we can say that the very first stanza of the poem opens very strongly, hinting to uniforms, killing, strangeness to each other, and reminding us of death in the last line. Now, who are the brothers he refers to in the poem? The brother he refers to in the poem can be anyone other than us, whom we differentiate only by uniforms. So, the concept or the theme of universal brotherhood is already introduced to us by introducing the word brothers. Here is a quick challenge for you. In 2 minutes, write down, what do you understand by universal brotherhood? This is a quick write task for you. You need to write only a few sentences. This is to see whether you are able to give a meaning to the concept of universal brotherhood. Are you able to think about the words related to that concept? And are you able to translate those thoughts into words and put them into neat sentences? 2-minute task. Simply stated, it's a concept to think about the whole world as our family. Every human being in this family is your kith and kin. It's all about treating all the people of the world with the feelings of equality, irrespective of their nationality, ethnicity, religion, and region. Let's go deeper into the poem. Let's analyze all the statements made by the poet. He uses lots of comparisons in the poem in very simple, plain, easily understandable language. Let's look at the comparisons he has made one by one. Number 1, beneath every uniform, single body breathes. Number 2, we shall all lie in the same earth. Number 3, aware of the same sun and air and water. Number 4, affected the same way by peaceful harvests and winter starvations. Number 5, our hands and our labors are the same. Number 6, our eyes wake or sleep in the same way. Number 7, we all can be won by love. Number 8, common life on every land that can be recognized and understood. Why is he using so many comparisons? In all the 5 stanzas, using all these comparisons, he is actually building up an argument. His claim is that no men are strange, no country foreign. All these statements are repeatedly made to substantiate this one argument or to substantiate this one claim. Let's look at the structure of the poem now. Let's look at the stanzaic pattern. We can say that it is regular in pattern. Each stanza has got 4 lines. You have 5 such stanzas with enjambment. His argument is steady, his language is persuasive, his reasons are logical, and in every stanza he uses the word remember. In the 4th stanza, he uses the word remember twice. Remember, let us remember. We said that the poem has the tone of a reminder. Normally in life, when do we need reminders? Isn't it when we forget things? So human beings tend to forget. We go astray. We need reminders. Perhaps this is why this poem has come as a reminder to us. No men are strange, no country is foreign. Let's look at this line in particular, when we are told to hate our neighbors. This sentence is in passive voice. The statement reminds us of someone who rules us or anyone who commands us to take weapons. So, in your view, who tells us to hate our brothers? You must have guessed it. It can be governments. It can be leaders. It can be anyone with power, authority, greed. We can be subject to all these kinds of authorities where we might forget ourselves and start hating our brothers around. As Kirkup winds up the poem becomes more and more serious. It touches you deeper and deeper. It makes you think even the more seriously about the world we all inhabit. He calls it the human earth. Let us remember, when we are told to hate our brothers, it is ourselves that we shall dispossess, betray, condemn. Remember, we who take arms against each other, it is the human earth that we defile. Our hells of fire and dust outrage the innocence of air that is everywhere our own. Remember, no men are foreign and no countries strange. Look at the words that he has used in the last stanza. Defile, betray, dispossess, condemn. We ourselves destroying the innocence of the air that envelops us. The fire and dust of our anger destroying this innocent earth. Towards the last part, he uses personification, metaphorical language to bring out how destructive we can be to ourselves. Is the theme as simple as the poem looks like? Isn't it a very strong message? Don't we need frequent reminders not to defile the very earth that we all inhabit? Now I'm sure you can write. If I ask you a question, why is this called an anti-war poem? Your responses can be quick. Without telling anything directly about the war, he is reminding us that we don't need wars, because no men are strange, no countries are foreign. We are all one. So next time you are thinking about anti-war poetry, let James Kirkup come to your mind with all his reasons why we don't need wars. We as people and nations create artificial boundaries and we become strangers to each other. With uniforms, we become strangers to each other, forgetting that we all have the same body that breathes beneath. It's our earth, our brothers, our air. The writer uses inclusive language to create that sense of oneness, or to bring us closer and closer to the theme of universal brotherhood. Simple, beautiful, powerful, meaningful. Let's not fight. We are all the same. We are one. But remember, Kirkup reminds us of a potential danger. We might be asked to hate our brothers. Is Kirkup the only man who reminded of this threat? Obviously no. Let's look at some other text or some other writers who have reminded us of this message, like James Kirkup.
Welcome again. Now let's look at a speech by Charlie Chaplin from the movie The Great Dictator. He begins his speech like this: "I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to conquer anyone." Now let's listen to the rest of the speech. "Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent and all will be lost. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate. Only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery. Fight for liberty. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish." Is this language persuasive? Does this give you any hope? Is this tone similar to that of Kirkup? Which is gentler? Which writing drives you more to action? So, my dear students, these are two types of writing, even though the message given is almost the same. But presented visually, the impact of the movie and the context will be higher. Now let's make some time to watch this movie, The Great Dictator.
All writers convey a message or two or even more through their writings. And not all writers use the same technique as of James Kirkup. Their techniques might be different, their styles might be different. What happens when the world forgets the message of James Kirkup but? The world forgets quite often that we are all the same. Let's see another poem by Janice Mirikitani.
Breaking Silence by Janice Mirikitani. After 40 years of silence about the experience of Japanese Americans in World War II concentration camps, My mother testified before the Commission on Wartime Relocation and Internment of Japanese American Civilians in 1981. For my mother, there are miracles that happen, she said, from the silences in the glass caves of our ears, from the crippled tongue, from the mute, wet eyelash, testimonies waiting like winter. We were told that silence was better, golden like our skin, useful like go quietly, easier like don't make waves, expedient like horse stalls and deserts. Mr. Commissioner, the US Army Signal Corps confiscated our property. It was subjected to vandalism and ravage. All improvements we had made before our incarceration were stolen or destroyed. I was coerced into signing documents giving you authority to take. My mother, soft as tallow, words peeling from her like slivers of yellow flame. Her testimony, a vat of boiling water surging through the coldest, bluest vein. She had come to her land as shovel, hoe and sickle searing reed and rock and dead brush, laboured so to sinew the ground, to soften gardens pregnant with seed, awaiting each silent morning, birthing fields of flowers. Mustard greens and tomatoes throbbing like the sea. And then all was hushed for announcements. Take only what you can carry. We were made to believe our faces betrayed us. Our bodies were loud with yellow screaming flesh, needing to be silenced behind barbed wire. Mr. Commissioner, it seems we were singled out from others who were under suspicion. Our neighbors were of German and Italian descent, some of whom not citizens. It seems we were singled out. She had worn her work like lemon leaves, shining in her sweat, driven by her dreams that honed the blade of her plough. The land she built like hope grew quietly, irises, roses, sweet peas, opening, and then all was hushed for announcements. To be incarcerated for your own good. The sounds of her work bolted in barracks, silenced. Mr. Commissioner, so when you tell me I must limit testimony, when you tell me my time is up, I tell you this, pride has kept my lips, pinned my nails, my rage coffined. But I exhume my past to claim this time. My youth is buried in Rover. Obachan's ghost visits Amachi Gete. My niece haunts Tule Lake. Words are better than tears, so I spill them. I kill this, the silence. There are miracles that happen, she said, and everything is made visible. We see cracks and fissures in our soil. We speak of suicides and intimacies, of longings lush like wet furrows, of oceans bearing us toward imagined riches, of burning humiliations and crimes by the government, of self-hate, of love that breaks through silences. We are lightning and justice. Our souls become transparent like glass, revealing tears of war. dead suns, red ashes of Hiroshima, jagged wounds from barbed wire. We must recognize ourselves at last. We are a rainforest of color and noise. We hear everything. We are unafraid. Our language is beautiful.
Janice Mirikitani is a Japanese American poet, and the name of her poem is Breaking Silence. The poem talks about the poet and her grandmother, her mother, and lots of her relatives had spent many years in the internment camps in America, even though they were citizens of America. Why did this happen? And what was the impact? This is what she reflects through the poem Breaking Silence. Japanese internment camps were established during World War II by President Franklin D. Roosevelt through his Executive Order 9066. Following the Executive Order 9066, from 1942 to 1945, it was the policy of the US government that people of Japanese descent, including US citizens, would be incarcerated or imprisoned in isolated camps. Many generations of Japanese Americans grew up with that pain and the injustice and the dehumanizing experience. What was the result of all these? They lost their childhood. Many lost their childhood and youth. They lost their self-respect. They were intimidated, silenced, traumatized, and victimized. It is this injustice that becomes the subject of the poem Breaking Silence. This is what can happen when James Kirkup's advice is forgotten. Janice Mirikitani uses poetry as a tool to show her resilience, to show her revolt against the injustice that those many innocent people suffered because of the unjustifiable American order. The persuasion in this poem is with the inclusive element once again. With words like we, she creates a sense of solidarity, making the people feel that there is a sense of togetherness which will fight together. It is this sense of togetherness that gives that special impact to the poem and the special spirit in the lines of the poem. Janice Mirikitani also succeeds in appealing to the people using emotive language. She uses autobiographical elements in the poem where she shares the feelings and anxieties of her mother, whereby the reader is forced to be part of that emotional experience. This is another way of gaining the reader's heart. That is a persuasive technique. So, dear students, to understand James Kirkup and to help you write and think and analyze deeper, we have taken you through many other texts. They all share same or different themes, and will join you soon with some other texts that you can relate even stronger with the same theme. Till then, it's a goodbye and thank you from Miss Reena and Miss Vinitha.